Mm, mm. Let's go here too. Mm, Really? Okay, let's see. Stop it right now. Okay. Oh, all right. I think everything's all good. Ah, there's the count. Okay. Well, I'm gonna get started anyway. Mm, In a couple minutes. Yeah. There is that, and that. Okay. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Nate, the Liberated Otaku, and what I wanted to do is something a little bit different today, and well, try to get back into podcasting, I guess. And I wanted to do a sort of pseudo live style of podcast, whereas once a month I'm gonna get on here and just yap about something. So this week's or this month's podcast episode is about the actual end of Jujutsu Kaisen, and it's kind of surreal talking about the end of it because it's been 6 years. You guys believe that? It's been 6 years. And granted, I kind of jumped on the wagon a little bit late about the a little bit late in the series 'cause I think I started reading in like 2020, I believe. And by that time it's been already 2 years. But it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. And just kind of going through the end of the series is something surreal. Um, because honestly, for me, it's cemented itself as one of my favorite anime in a long time, in a very very long time. Part of it, I believe, is because JJK is very heavily inspired by Bleach. And then there's no shame about it, right? You look at it, it's very similar. And Bleach is one of my all-time favorite anime. So it it kind of makes sense that that's the case. And so honestly, just kind of gonna go through here and just see exactly what all is here. There we go. Sorry about that. For those of you who are in audio only, I'm sharing my screen, kind of reading through the last chapter, and man, 271 chapters of greatness, I guess. And now all of it wasn't great, but hey, and I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed the ride, but man, it's oh, okay. No, we're still streaming. Cool. It's just yeah, it's just really different, man. Now I'm gonna be honest, the ending for me, like this ending was just okay. It was just okay. It wasn't good, it wasn't just the best thing ever. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever read either. It just felt like, well, okay. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed because as I don't know, as high stakes and as high octane everything was, it it fell kind of flat. You know, and again, not it didn't really end like I don't know how Bleach did back in the day when Bleach's ending was just horrendous in my opinion. But I think I think JJK it ended kind of somewhere in the middle ground, and I'm perfectly okay with that. You know, I'm glad that the trio is all still here because for the longest time, I honestly thought he was just going to be cooked after getting hit with Gojo's domain expansion so many times. I thought Megami was just done for, and Nobara, I figured she'd still be alive because Gege normally just explicitly says if a character just outright dead or not, but he left her kind of ambiguous on purpose. So I figured, okay, okay, she's coming back, but to do it the last 5 chapters of the series kind of felt too fan servicey for me. No, I love Nobara. Nobara is my dog. Like she got that dog in her, and she's ready to. she's gonna put them paws on whoever needs it. But it just felt I don't know. It felt kind of out of place when she came back with only 5 chapters left in the series. That's just my opinion. But hey, what can you do? Um, and honestly, it's that that aside, I'm glad the trio's back, you know. And one thing I remember kind of telling myself right after Gojo lost and he died was that okay, this isn't the same series that I've been watching, I've been reading up to this point now because it felt like the tone shifted. I don't know if I was the only one, but I had to go from being invested in the story overall as well to just saying, "Hey, this is just another battle shonen," because that's when the whole Sakuna Kaisen, the king of conveniences, started happening, and it was like, "Okay, this is what we're doing here." But so that that that's just to say that while I love JJK and everything about it, it was just I feel like the plane could have been landed better, but I'm not an author like Gege himself. Uh, hey Sid, what's going on? He said last 6 chapters felt like yeah, pretty much, man. The last 6 chapters just felt kind of eh, okay-ish, I guess. Um, because yeah, it just felt fan servicey and you throw him out the window. I like it, man. Yeah, yeah, I definitely think it could have been done better, but I'm not an author, right? And let Gay cook, I guess. Maybe he cooked a little too long with some of this stuff, and I think it could have been wrapped up better. But nonetheless, man, I think it was a pretty good ride through and through. Sure, there were some kind of plot holes and things like that, which is normal for any long running series, right? But compared to, like I mentioned earlier, how Bleach ended, Bleach ended like it was just way out of left field. Like, you know, talk about the plot era of Destiny, and none of it really made sense. But when it comes to JJK and really not just the last 5 chapters, but the overall Sakuna jump fest, right? I feel like I feel like it's a better read in a binge setting versus a week because going back rereading some of the chapters myself, I felt like it makes more sense knowing what's coming next versus waiting that week or the 2 weeks times to figure out okay what's really going to happen. Because for me, after Gojo lost, I was like, okay, well, nothing that the crew is going to do is even going to matter. It was my take on it. After he lost, I'm like, well, who else is going to be able to stop Sakuna without it feeling cheap? I guess. So that's one thing I will say about this ending is that it didn't feel completely cheap to me on how Sakuna lost because he lost from the main game plan, right? Which was to separate him from Megami. And, you know, Yuji's soul punches and stuff were talked about way back when he fought Mahito. So that didn't feel like a just, you know, a pull out of nowhere. And since that was the way they beat him, it's like, okay. At the end of the day, I'm happy with that. But the circumstantial stuff, man, it just felt kind of weird at times. And man, man. All right, I don't want to harp too much on the negative side, right? Because again, JJK is one of my favorite series ever. So kind of switching gears a little bit to some of the good things that I liked about it was that one, I feel like it was an excellent battle shonen, right? I mean, it did what it needed to do well. Lots of action, lots of fights, really well done fight choreography, and you can't you just can't deny that, right? You say what you want about these actual writing and the story and some of the plot holes and stuff, but when it comes down to the actual fighting and the power system and the world building, I think he did a really, really, really good job, and it kept me hooked for these last 4 years of me actually reading it, and so I really like that. And kind of adding on to that is the characters as well. I don't really think there was any character that I just outright didn't like in terms of, I just he could have just done without him, I guess. Um, yeah, and I'm not gonna harp on Kashimo. I know people were disappointed in his showing against Sukuna, while others pointed out he did relatively well. But even characters like Kashimo, who didn't get a lot of panel time after his introduction, I thoroughly enjoyed. So love the characters, but specifically the villains, because I because when it comes to Sukuna and Kenjaku both, and to the same degree Mahito as well, right? When he was around, they all exemplify the "I'm doing this because I can" mentality. Like, which I didn't really think about it till earlier today when I was getting ready for this live stream, and I think it's part of the reason why I like Sukuna and Kenjaku so much is because there's no really deep-seated reasoning behind them doing what they did other than they could, and they were just waiting for somebody to try to stop them so they could crush them, right? And it which is really weird for me as somebody whose channel is about, analyzing different characters and things like that, and what we can learn from them, coming to the conclusion that, okay, that's really all they are, right? Now I know there's more depth to them as a person and things like that, but and as far as the narrative is concerned, all Kenjaku just wanted the merger to happen because he was curious, and Sukuna caused all this chaos and strife because he could, and nobody could stop him. So, and then of course, like Mahito's whole speech to Yuji, right? He kills humans because he's a curse. The same reason why Yuji exercises curses is because he's a sorcerer. Um, Hey, what's going on? It says the fight was good and the whole lead up and ending was good. This is the point with Disney Kaisen. Yeah, yeah. Higurumi yeah, okay. That's a very good point. Very good point. For those you don't know, so Sid put a comment, said the fight was good and the whole lead up to the ending was good. Little disappointed with Disney Kaisen bringing characters back like Yuta, Toto, Maki. Okay, but Higuruma and Kenjaku. That's a very good point. Kenjaku had a really good potential to become one of the best villains. I agree. Wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, everyone just kind of, I don't know, coming back to life all of a sudden. Like I said, back with the whole Nobara thing, um, felt very fan servicey. Like he just did it just because, versus having an actual point to do it, right? Because again, like Yuta and Toto and Yuta and Toto, right? They weren't really confirmed, like, to be dead or anything. Um, it was interesting to see how Toto came back with his whole Vibra slap. Like, I mean, that's my dog. I love him. Love the fact that he came back, and I was hoping he would for this final battle. But if he didn't, I would have been questioning like why. And for Yuta, again, gonna go back to the whole Nobara thing. It wasn't strictly shown that he was dead. I mean, yes, he got cut in half, but it wasn't like the shock panel with Gojo, right, where he was just lying there on the ground. So it figured there would be something more with that. I honestly thought Rika would just go wild or something. To be honest, that was my theory that if Yuta dies, then their pact is null and void or something. She just turns into a curse, full on. But The body swapping worked fine too, I guess. And then yeah, Higuruma was weird for me too. I honestly thought he was dead. Like I thought Sukuna just offed him and that was it. So seeing him come back, it felt kind of odd as well because it's like, okay, how did he survive that point blank slash to the chest? But sure. And then Kinjaku is this is one of the things that kind of I don't know, kind of pisses me off a little bit is that so it wasn't in this show, was it 270 where we see a panel with him and Takaba, and it's like this was just never touched on. This is like this was never explained. This was never brought up. Where's the panel at? Uh yeah, like right here. Like what is going on here? Because I thought Takaba was dead. I thought this man killed himself with his own curse technique by accident. And then after the fact, he's just planning comedy with Kinjaku, quote unquote, or are we still in his Looney Tunes Toon Force world? Like, what's happening here? Uh, I, I need answers. We're probably never gonna get it. So that's just yeah, that could have been done better. And to your other point, that Kinjaku had the potential to become one of the best villains. I still think he was, in all honesty. I still think he was. I don't think there was any. Mm, in terms of him as a character, I don't think there's any notch against him. Um, I think his ending could have been a little more, I don't know, extravagant, I guess, considering he was one of the main villains of the series and having him get clapped up against Yuta at the very end was kind of like, okay, sure. But outside of that, I like Kenjaku overall as a villain. Like I said, he played his role very, very well. He's like, "Yeah, like, I'm doing this because I can, and you guys are 1,000 years too late to even begin to try to stop me." So, um, yeah, I say if I could redo anything about Kenjaku was probably be his ending. I would like to see him get another actual like fight. I mean, his whole thing with Takaba was hilarious and fantastic, but I think as a Western audience, I missed some of the things that what Gege was trying to do, which is fine, right? JJK is a Japanese thing, so I'm not mad about it. But it would be nice to see him actually really, really go out and fight, fight to his fullest, I guess. Because even against Tsukumo Choso, right? I don't think John really actually like tried his best. Sure, he was doing what he could against a fellow special grade sorcerer plus Choso, who I think is considered special grade as well, and it just never felt like he was in any danger of losing. I guess so I would like to see what it looks like when him actually not having Batman contingency plans, Uh, but all in all, I like Kenjaku as a villain. His ending could have been done a little bit better, in my opinion. But again, I'm not an author. Um, additional endings that you released some additional panels. Did he? Okay, okay. I really hope that would be best option to satisfy all. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Sid. Again, from audio only, Sid brought up a good point. Is that Gege said he will release some additional panels, and we really hope it will be alternative ending of some sort. That'd be the best option. And Matt would just pick the most liked one. Absolutely. Uh, and also another thing too is it could possibly get the Bleach Thousand Year Blood War treatment too, where there's some extended scenes, extended moments in the actual anime that weren't in the manga too. So that is an option. Um, one that I'm hoping gets that treatment is Hakari's quote unquote fight against Urame. Like Hakari is one of my favorite characters in the series, and to have his final battle just be off panel the entire time is I personally attacked. I don't know, honestly, I feel personally attacked because it's like, my gambling man, I was so hyped because he was touted as one of their heavy hitters, right? Before Yuji had his awakening and we really understood the growth he had, right? It was Yuta, Maki, and Hikari. And Kenjaku, that's was Kenjaku's whole plan. He was like, he waited for Gojo to fight Sukuna because he knew the rest of the um, Jujutsu High had to be around to fight Sukuna afterwards, and including their heavy hitters. And granted, give Hikari his flowers, right? He did run the ones against Urame, who, you know, granted isn't as strong as Kenjaku, still I'd consider leagues above the majority of the cast at that point in time. So he did his job, right? He stalled her out to keep her from joining Sukuna, right? Because as much trouble as they had beating Sukuna and putting him down, if Arami and they just had no hope. There's absolutely no hope by anybody for them to actually win that fight. So I guess in that sense is okay, but as a Hikari stan, I feel like it was a disservice that we didn't get to see my man actually fight. And the only differences we got were him and Urame narrating Sukuna's fight. So that was but what can you do? So I'm just fingers crossed that map extends some means and we actually get to see just see different things, I guess, because I would like to see what happened exactly in a month time skip besides the swap training, right? How did the swap training go? Who swapped with who? Like, things like that. Did, did Yuji and Gojo ever talk about, what happened with Megami and Nobara, right? How did Gojo react to Nanami dying? The more, I guess, human aspect of the series I felt was lost in this last arc because I think Gege was kind of rushing to the end of the series, which is, hey, it's his series, he can do what he want with it. But I felt like it was a little rushed in that regard. He could have taken more time to actually show, I guess, like some of the downtime, right? Because Gojo was sealed for what was it, like a little over a couple weeks, maybe a month, and so much has happened because and because when he got sealed, let's see, right after that, all hell broke loose in Shibuya. Literally, like Nanami died, Sukuna went on a rampage, Nobara was supposedly dead, and then through everything with the culling games to Megami being possessed by Sukuna, and now it's like, okay, let's take a minute, take a time out, and let me understand what's really happening. As say it can happen that Sukuna Maharaga have been extended from 5 panels. Absolutely, exactly. That's the stuff I'm talking about. Now, it might not get the Sukuna versus Maharaga treatment. I wish it would, but I doubt it. But to your point, yes, they can definitely extend some of these fights, be full length episodes in of themselves. Because we already know this Sukuna Jump Fest is gonna be what 10 to 12 episodes by itself, consider everything that happened within it. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Mappa does with this in the next, I don't know what, year and a half, right? Because next season should be the Culling game arc, plus the whole preparation arc before then, right? So I guess we're looking maybe 2026, maybe 2027. So it gives them plenty of time, and since the materials is done for right now, hopefully they can get some of these kind of questions and plot holes and things like that filled up. That's what I'm looking forward to anyway. And so, kind of just kind of yapping and stuff. Um, I guess some of the ugly parts of like JJK as a mainly again this whole final arc and stuff is that me reading it week by week, at first it really felt like Gojo's fight did nothing to help the cast. Like it did nothing. And what I mean by that is, yes, he got rid of the 10 shadows, in Maharaga and things like that with this last Hollow Purple. That's true, but Sukuna didn't need those things to beat them anyway. Like, let's be honest. Sukuna shown throughout the rest of the time that he did not need the 10 shadows in order to take on the cast. And so for me, reading this week by week, I was like, what was the point? What was the point of Gojo going out there doing all of this damage just to say, nah, nah, Sukuna's gonna win anyway. But going back and kind of reading it all together without the breaks in between, and just kind of reading it and having better understanding of the story overall, is Gojo's fight was symbolic to give them a chance at beating Sukuna, because the fact of the matter is Sukuna is the strongest sorcerer ever, right? He proved that in his fight with Gojo. And even even if the other sorcerers had joined in the fight when Gojo went out there first, it still wouldn't have mattered, because Sukuna was just so many leagues above really all of them. Gojo was the closest one, but even then, it was still an uphill battle for him. So having him kind of set the pace and set the tone really kind of encapsulates his dream, actually, because he allowed them to be able to grow, to get stronger, and to be able to fight the strongest sorcerer in history, and then come out victorious. Now, some of it kind of things they couldn't really plan for, right? Like Yuji's awakening during the fight, right? When he started chaining those black flashes like a madman, which is honestly one of my uh favorite parts of the whole Sukuna Kaisen. Was, yeah, this is the chapter. When Yuji just started chaining these black flashes and guess kind of rising to the occasion, because that's one of the things I kind of was not really okay with, because it really felt like Yuji was kind of followed behind the rest of the cast and gets this fight with Sukuna. Uh, because so who do we have? What chapter will be the last one? That's 271. That came out today on Thai Studios. Um, so that would actually came out today. And so right now we're just kind of talking about the whole last arc as a whole, some of the the good, the bad, and the ugly for the series, just from my point of view, and just kind of how JJK's really, it just honestly just affected me in my life, and it's been a crazy ride. But some of the things that Gege did or didn't do kind of make me scratch my head. And honestly, 271, I think, ends it pretty okay. Um, I was explaining earlier on in the stream that from reading like Bleach and how it ended, and towards the end of Naruto as well, it kind of got out of hand and it felt very rushed. But JJK, while it does feel rushed at times, it it could have been better, but also could have been worse. Is the best way to put it. I think it's a good ending to the story for what he was trying to write about, but I still think some of the things that happened beforehand feel a little out of place. Because I'm assuming you're caught up to everything, right? So like Nobara coming back with 5 chapters left in the series just felt kind of weird to me after not mentioning her at all since Shibuya. Like literally the last thing we know about her was when Mahito, palmed her face, and old boy was like, "Hey, she may not be dead," right? That was it until literally 5 chapters left in the series. Like, oh yeah, by the way, she's alive, and now let me, you know, hit the finishing blow on Sukuna, more or less. So stuff like that felt kind of weird, but I mean, here we just have the trio doing what they normally do, right? Taking on odd jobs, odd missions, and um, spawning all of them. Exactly. Just spawning them all, man. They all just came back just just because. And again, I kind of turned my brain off a long time ago. Like after Gojo lost and how that was handled, I just kind of like, all right, whatever. At this point, let me just sit back and enjoy it for the fight choreography and everything like that. And I'll tackle the plot holes and stuff later on once the series is over, like now. And that helped me kind of get through it, and not just be angry week to week and be one of those people online just, KK sucks and all this type of stuff. But yeah, there were definitely some issues, and it's just I don't know, man. It still feels kind of surreal that this is the last chapter, and they're just kind of, you know wrapping it up how it all kind of began. And now, really wish he didn't just spawn them back from the dead, just kind of off the cuff. But hey, we got our trio back. How many seasons will there be left? So, like, see, I was thinking about that earlier. If I had to guess, maybe there might be 3 to 4 seasons in total. I'd say four because season three is probably going to cover the Culling games and plus the preparation arc before that. So, Yuta's trying to execute Yuji, them finding Hikari, and then Maki's awakening, all that type of stuff. Plus the Culling games is what I think is going to be season three. So that would just leave the Shinjuku Showdown as season four, possibly, unless they do like an Attack on Titan, where it's like season four, parts one, two, three, five, whatever. You know what I'm saying. So the way I'm thinking, it's probably at the very least two more seasons. At the most, maybe three, depending on how much they want to add to the actual anime and how much they're going to break up the Sakuna Jump Fest, right? Um, so that's just my opinion, but only time will tell. That's true. That is true, Sid. Shinjuku Showdown could be a movie, or maybe even a couple, right? I mean, how would you like break that down? Because I'm thinking, so the Gojo versus Akuna fight itself could be, I guess, like a part one type thing. Um, right. Oh, yeah, actually, they could do Shinjuku Showdown kind of like the End Game, right? With the Avengers. Part one could be Gojo versus Akuna, and then with you know the stab in the heart for all the anime onlys, right? That Gojo loses, and then they can come back for the rest of the jumping of Sakuna Kaisen. That could be a good way to do it. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea, Sid. And that way, it's not just kind of drug out, I guess, and kind of goes out with a bang. Um, that could be nice. And then I'm sure they might do what they do with a lot of the anime movies nowadays and repurpose it for another season anyway. So we might get a movie first and then a season just to really say, hey, this is it. But what's JJJ? See, I do too. Untied Studios. He said he wished JJK could be longer, but see, I'm kind of torn because towards the end, it really did feel like Gege was kind of wanting to rush it to be finished. And I think if it was a little bit longer, then even more of these issues that we kind of talked about would be kind of prevalent. And then stuff would just stop making sense completely. And then it will just kind of muddy up the name or the legacy that JJK means to some of us. Um, that's just my opinion. Or at the worst, we can get like a Boruto, right? Another Boruto where it's kind of it's really missed the mark for how many chapters until you know it starts doing its own thing. 'Cause I've never read Boruto. I watched a little bit of the anime and I just couldn't get into it because it felt like Naruto. But I don't want this to happen with JJK, so um, I wouldn't want it to be extended any further than what it is, simply because of that reason. Now, if Gege had the belief or the desire, I should say, to continue the series with the same type of passion, then by all means, uh, maybe side character story. Yeah, then that would be cool. Maybe we can get some side character slash prequel story arcs, right? Because I'm interested to see like the Heian era, right? What was Sakuna like before he became this monstrosity? Because we know he was kind of blessed or cursed, however you want to put it, since birth. But how exactly did he get to become the monster that we saw, right? And what was the Heian era like for all the sorcerers? Because we only had what, two or three, I think, from the Heian era. Because it was what, Sukuna, Urame, Kinjaku, Yorozu, I think, technically. Um, and it was even stated narratively that the Heian era was just like the Wild Wild West because of Sukuna, right? So what does that look like? What was the sorcerers like? What were the curses like? How were things done back then? So that would be a really cool side series to see. Maybe something can have been done with like the big three clans, right? How did they really come to power? Why is it only three of them? How did the family curse techniques actually become a thing, stuff like that. There's a lot of material there for some spin-offs that doesn't necessarily have to be a direct continuation of the main story. Um, but we just gotta wait and see, I guess, right? Because we just don't know. And I don't have the artistic capabilities or the money to actually do any of that. So so we just gotta hope that somebody out there does decide to pick it up. Some of these ideas, because the world of JJK is one of the best ones I've seen in a long time. Like the world building, the power system, the characters. Like I mentioned earlier, man, there's these characters are very well done and very well written. Even some of the one-off ones, you feel, at least for me, you feel the like the depth of them to an extent. Like at least to make me care enough about them in that moment, right? Some characters come to mind, it's like Ryu, right? When Yuta ran his gauntlet in Sendai, like Ryu made me feel like, okay, this is an actual character. He's not just fodder to show off Yuta's powers, right? He felt like, okay, if he were to stick around, I wouldn't be mad about it. But if he got killed off, then I wouldn't feel like he was just a waste of space. Is what I'm trying to get at. So I think Gege did a really good job of writing some of the characters. Um, I did. I will say I think he has the typical shonen issue where he makes these busted characters, and then it's like, what do I do with them? Let me just get rid of them. So like, case point, Nobara, right? Nobara's curse technique is literally one of the most busted ones in the series, and you can't change my mind about it. Resonance is crazy because there's no defense against it, right? You just get hit, and and then that's it. Your soul's hurt, and so we already knew going into the final fight against Sukuna, Nobara would have been a huge heavy hitter. So what did he do? Got rid of her until it was convenient to bring her back out to end the series. You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that felt kind of it felt kind of it's like, did you really have to do it this way, Gege? But I get it. I'm sure. So Sid said, I think everything deserves its proper ending. Saddest part was that we believed this was Attack on Titan type of story, but instead it was Battle Shonen all along. Somebody just watched this. But yeah, I agree. I agree. It did feel disappointing by that realization too. Said that because correct me if I'm wrong. I think Gege did mention that in the beginning that JJK wasn't going to end like your typical shonen, right? I could be wrong, could be misremembering, but I could have swore that's what he stated back when he first started doing this, and that's what it was looking like. Honestly, if Sukuna had won, if Genjaku had won, I wouldn't have been mad because that's how it was leading up, right? No matter what the cast did, no matter what plan or training they did, none of that seemed to matter, right? Sukuna was just gonna steamroll them anyway. Now, it did feel kind of cheap the way he was doing it, but what can you do? But then for it just to kind of devolve into, like you said, the typical battle shonen where you just watch and enjoy the fights. Yeah, it was a little disappointing because I think all of us had a different type of expectation about it. But hey, what can you do, right? Sharp edges in JJK manga made it look 10 times better. What do you mean by the sharp edges? Like literally the artwork, or like are you being like kind of meta with the narrative, the sharp edges, untie? Um, I'm assuming you mean like the artwork and stuff, which is yeah, JJK has some splendid artwork. He's one of the main reasons why I picked up the series way back when. Um, which is oddly enough one of the main reasons why I picked up the series because my coworker was like, is like, "Hey Nate, I need you to watch this real quick." And you want to know what the scene was that he showed me that got me hooked on JJK? It was it was literally when Gojo was playing patty cake with Jogo. Like this man just palming him in his chest and kicked him away like a soccer ball. I was like, what in the disrespect am I watching? Like what is it? What are we seeing right here? And from that point on, I was like, okay, I got to watch this whole thing. Like it's exactly, man. It my coworker, he knew what he was doing. Because Kurt, if you watch this, man, you or watch the replay later. Thank you for showing me that, because that was just the blatant disrespect I needed to see. And then the very next episode he showed me, because he showed me the stuff out of order, was doggone Toto hitting the boogie woogie on Hanami, and the whole like the clap ensemble where this man's just posing every which way. I was like, yo, what is this show? I need it in my life. And I really did. I really did. JJK is a solid piece of work, and honestly, it's a masterpiece to me. Despite its pitfalls, despite all the craziness then that kind of ensued, I think JJK was still a solid piece of work. Hey, what's going on, Naveed? Said, what did Gay say about JJK Part 2? On to, as far as I'm aware, I don't think he has said anything about a Part 2 yet. We were talking a little earlier about what are some possible things we could see if he does decide to continue I guess, the JJK universe, right? Um, but as far as anything official, I don't think he said it, unless I might have missed it on Twitter or something. But some of the things we were kind of mulling around the ideas were maybe they revisit um, and or just kind of more in-depth things about the three clans or just something like that to kind of expand the universe. Said, hey, said, thank you for joining the stream, man. Have a good night. Thank you for stopping by. And yeah, feel free if you want to subscribe to the channel. Hey, by all means, got plenty of JJK Blue Lock anime content on here for you, man. So appreciate you stopping by and enjoy the rest of your night. Um, and then so again, so Naveed, to answer your question, man, we don't really know. I don't think he said anything officially about the what's going to happen with JJK going forward, but we just kind of threw around some ideas. And my main thing is I kind of not really sure if I want a continuation or not, because I don't want it to get the Boruto treatment and it kind of just watered down what I enjoyed so much about the series. But hey, whatever he decides to do, I guess. Um, but I'm probably still gonna watch whatever he decides or read whatever he decides to do with it. So um, and now one of the main things that I kind of really enjoyed about JJK and is that the some of the overall like themes, or I guess the takeaways that I kind of got from it. And one of them actually I made a video on several months ago actually, is the idea of like the selfishness and power, and how if you notice all of the top dog, like the strongest of the strongest, like Gojo, Sukuna, Kenjaku, and even like Yuta to an extent, all have this level of like selfishness where they are looking out for themselves and their own power. And for for some reason that kind of just resonated with me in a sense, because it brings me to brings to mind the idea of the whole, like when you're on an airplane, right? They tell you when oxygen masks come down, you put on your own mask first before you help somebody else. And I think that's the type of mentality a way I'm spinning it, is that you look after yourself, make sure your well-being is secure and straight before you worry about somebody else. And now JJK takes a darker turn with it, right? In terms of like Sukuna and Kenjaku, they're just doing what they want to do in order um to further their goals, right? Whereas someone like Gojo, yes, he does it in a similar vein, but since he is one of the good guys, he chooses to use his strength to help out the next generation, to lead them, to teach them, right? But if he didn't, then who's gonna stop him, right? Nobody. That's who, because he's Gojo. But I think for us, as real life people, I think it is something to say that when we put our all into the things that we're doing, things that we're trying to do, then think we're not only are we going to be better off for it, I think the people around us are going to be better off for it too. Because if you're at your best, then you can be at your best for your family, your friends, and everyone that you come in contact with. Whereas on the flip side, if you're always just giving, 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 and you're never being poured into, then you're just going to be an empty husk at the end of the day. And I don't think that's good for anybody. Um, is it unties or like the cutscenes in power? Absolutely, absolutely, do. Is a like I said a couple times, man. The power system in JJK is fantastic. Very, very well done. And a lot of people kind of make fun of the whole binding vow spamming that Sukuna was doing throughout the rest of this fight. Like every time they had him dead to rights. Oh, by the power of a binding vow, Sukuna, you know, uses plot armor or some whatever ridiculous thing. And but I will say I am glad that he being Gege expanded upon the whole binding vow system uh through Sukuna and actually his fight with Gojo and everything after that, because that was such a integral part to the power system that we just didn't really get to understand or see until this final arc. And because there's so many different ways that you can do it. I know it's a lot like Nen from Hunter x Hunter, which is kind of what part of this is based off of, right? And honestly, binding vows and curse energy is just crack, dude. Is ridiculous. All right, Untie. You have a good night. Appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, binding vows and things like that are just completely just cracked, as we seen with Sukuna. Sukuna just spamming those things left and right. He's like, "Oh, I'm about to lose." You thought? Let me just let me just say, okay, I can't wiggle my left pinky toe for the rest of the week, and I get to just nuke you with my domain expansion. Something crazy like that. Um, which is just regardless of fact of how Sukuna used it, right? I think the binding vows and then how curse energy and curse techniques work is something really, is something really unique that outside with Nen, I don't think was really done anywhere else. Again, I could be wrong. I haven't read every single shonen, right, but I know Hunter x Hunter was a huge inspiration for this type of power system as well. And um I'm interested to see what other series, even after JJK, comes of it with something similar and something as in depth that can be, used to various different lengths or whatever. Um, but so yeah, so now I am interested to see what's next for not just JJK, but as for anime and manga and for shonen specifically going forward. Because now it's almost like the passing of the torch in a sense. Because back in the day we had Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, GT, all those things. Uh, Rest in peace, Toriyama, and then that went on to inspire the big three: Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, and they in turn went on to inspire a lot of the modern day shonen that we know and love, like JJK, Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, My Hero. So it's interesting to see where shonen goes going forward, to see where these people were, to see what happens next, and how these ideas, these concepts, these storylines are iterated upon and hopefully made better, right? And not just carbon copies or just a worse version of it, but something unique in a sense that you feel like you're reading something new and something interesting. So it'd be interesting to see what becomes of that. But that being said, I think I'm going to call it here, guys. Thank you for everyone who showed up just to sit here and chat with me, talking about JJK and all the craziness that was this last arc, this last chapter, and the end of an era. So I'm looking forward to see what comes next, whether it's from Gege or whoever else. But hey, appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy day, busy schedules to be here with me. And if you like the content like this, then subscribe to the channel. do plenty of character breakdowns, character analysis of different anime. Jujutsu Kaisen, Blue Lock, um, Bleach. Whatever fits your fancy, you're going to find it here. And I pray that you may just even get inspired by some of this content as well. But whatever you do, do it to the best of your ability. And I appreciate you guys for joining in. All right, see ya.